The alien operative had one mission. Then the human commander offered her freedom. The planet Zithera Prime was a world scarred by war. Vast craters stretched across the land, and the air shimmered with dust and ash. Amid the chaos, a single figure moved silently across the ridges of a crater, her movements precise and fluid. Lyra, the alien operative, was a master of her craft. She had been trained for this mission for years, every skill honed to perfection. Infiltrate the human outpost, sabotage their defenses, and disappear before anyone could notice. No one questioned her loyalty, and she never hesitated. Until now. From a distance, she could see the outpost's perimeter, sleek metallic walls rising from the rocky terrain, human guards patrolling with steady, disciplined steps. Lyra's species considered humans primitive and unpredictable, yet surprisingly resilient. That resilience had been the subject of her training simulations, and now she would test it herself. She crouched on a rocky ledge, observing every movement, noting weaknesses and planning her approach. Her mind was calm, methodical. Every heartbeat, every breath was measured. Inside the outpost, Commander Elias moved through the halls with quiet authority. He was human, of course, with a reputation that reached far beyond the colony. Unlike others of his kind who relied solely on brute force or overwhelming firepower, Elias combined intelligence with empathy. He had saved countless lives, not only humans but alien refugees as well. Rumors had reached even Lyra's superiors that this human did not merely command, he inspired. That made him dangerous in a way that could not be ignored. Lyra adjusted her vision to the infrared spectrum, scanning the outpost. Guards, sensors, patrol routes. It was all predictable, all human, yet somehow different from what she expected. There was order, yes, but not blind obedience. She noticed a medic tending to a small group of alien refugees. The humans worked quickly, efficiently, but with a gentleness that surprised her. It was not weakness. It was respect, something alien to her training, something she had not seen in years of military preparation. As she crouched, ready to move, a small noise caught her attention. A human patrol was approaching her location, but they passed without noticing. Lyra's tail twitched, a subtle motion, unnoticed by humans but instinctively alerting her. She stayed perfectly still, letting them move past. Every instinct screamed for her to strike, to complete her mission, but another part of her mind, quiet and hesitant, whispered a question she had never asked herself. Why were these humans different? Her orders were clear. She was to infiltrate the command center, place explosives in the power core, and leave without a trace. Every detail had been accounted for. Failure was not an option. Yet as she observed the humans, working together, sharing tools and offering water to those too weak to stand, something inside her shifted. Lyra had seen cruelty, she had executed it, and she had followed orders without question. But in that moment, watching the humans care for one another, she felt the first stirrings of doubt. Night fell quickly on Zithera Prime. The cold was sharp against her alien skin, but she welcomed it. Darkness was her ally. Lyra moved with ghost-like precision through the rocky terrain, approaching the perimeter of the outpost. Sensors flickered, and alarms were silent thanks to her careful planning. She slipped through the shadows, her mind focused, but she could not ignore the strange feeling growing in her chest, a mixture of curiosity, confusion, and a strange sense of anticipation. Inside the base, Elias sat in his command room, reviewing sensor data. Something unusual flickered on the monitor, a shadow in the wrong place at the wrong time. He narrowed his eyes, sensing that an intruder was nearby. Not a common attack, he realized, too subtle, too careful. This was no ordinary human adversary. His mind raced through possibilities, and he felt the faintest thrill of recognition. The aliens had sent someone skilled, someone trained to kill. Yet he did not panic. Humans had survived against impossible odds before, and he had no intention of failing now. Lyra's hand hovered over the access panel to the power core. She paused, feeling the weight of her mission pressing against her conscience. Years of training told her to act, yet something about the humans, about this place, made her hesitate. She glimpsed a group of young engineers, human and alien alike, working side by side. Their laughter was soft, their voices calm, yet it carried an unspoken strength. They were ordinary beings, but their courage and cooperation made them extraordinary. For a moment, Lyra considered the mission differently. Could destroying this outpost really serve her people, or would it simply feed the cycle of violence? She had never questioned orders before. Loyalty had always been absolute. But now, watching humans care for those weaker than themselves, she felt a strange pull, a sense that there might be more to life than obedience and war. A soft sound behind her made her freeze. Elias appeared, seemingly from nowhere. His calm gaze met hers, and for a moment, Lyra saw something she had not expected: understanding, not fear or aggression. He did not reach for a weapon. He did not shout orders. He simply watched, studying her as she studied him. "Why are you here?" he asked, his voice quiet but firm. "Are you just following orders, or do you believe in what you're doing?" Lyra's mind raced. She had never been confronted like this. No commander, no soldier, no superior had ever questioned her motives. They assumed obedience, demanded results. Elias assumed nothing. The human's eyes held no malice, only curiosity. It was unnerving and yet strangely comforting. For the first time, she felt seen as something more than a tool, more than a weapon. I have a mission," she said, her voice low and controlled. "I am to sabotage this outpost, that is all." "And if you fail?" Elias asked, tilting his head slightly. "What happens to you then?" Lyra did not answer. The truth was, failure was not an option. Yet she could not ignore the question. It forced her to consider a possibility she had never allowed herself to imagine: that she could choose, that her life might not be predetermined by orders, by loyalty, by fear. She slipped away from the room, moving to a safer vantage point. From there, she watched Elias coordinate his team with quiet efficiency. He moved among humans and aliens alike, offering guidance, reassurance, and even praise. His leadership was different from what she expected. There was no harshness, no intimidation. There was trust. And in that trust, Lyra felt something unfamiliar, a spark of hope, fragile but real. As night deepened, Lyra prepared to enter the command center. Her mission demanded action, yet her hesitation grew. She paused outside the core, placing her hand on the panel, ready to execute years of training in one decisive moment. And yet, in that instant, she saw the humans again, the engineers, the medics, the young soldiers. They were not warriors driven by hatred or fear. They were beings striving to survive, to protect, to care. And for the first time, Lyra wondered if destroying them would serve justice, or merely feed a senseless war. The wind shifted, carrying the faint scent of the humans' campfires. Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, listening to the quiet hum of the outpost, the soft chatter of beings determined to endure. She thought of her own people, her superiors, the mission that had defined her life for years. And then she thought of Elias, standing unseen yet fully aware, offering a question where no answer was expected, offering something she had never known: choice. For the first time, Lyra hesitated, not because of fear, but because she could not decide. The mission, her loyalty, her identity, they all pressed against her conscience. Yet there was something new growing within her, a curiosity, a spark of defiance, a sense that perhaps freedom was possible, even for someone like her. She stepped back from the panel, silently acknowledging that the night had changed everything. The mission was still her purpose, but for the first time, she realized it might not be her only path. Somewhere in the human outpost, Elias continued his work, unaware of the silent decision being made just outside the walls. Lyra's mind was no longer simply following orders. It was beginning to question, to choose, to wonder. And in that quiet moment, As the stars glittered above Zithra Prime, the alien operative felt the first true stirrings of freedom. The next day on Zithra Prime began quietly, though tension lingered in the air like a shadow. Lyra moved through the rocky terrain outside the human outpost, her mind still reeling from the encounter with Commander Elias the night before. His calm, thoughtful approach had unsettled her more than any battle or threat from her superiors ever had. She could not understand why a human, one so obviously her enemy by training and orders, had offered words instead of force. Inside the outpost, Elias surveyed his team as they prepared for the day. There was work to be done, and he did not underestimate the threat. The alien operative was skilled, trained to infiltrate and destroy, but he had learned long ago that understanding an opponent often achieved more than mere strength. Today, he intended to test that principle. Lyra observed from a distance, crouched atop a ridge with a clear view of the base. She saw humans and alien refugees working together, repairing equipment, tending to minor injuries, organizing supplies. The humans moved with coordination, but also with an unexpected gentleness. No one barked orders, no one struck out in anger. Each action seemed deliberate, purposeful, and cooperative. For Lyra, it was confusing. In her world, strength was demonstrated through dominance and loyalty through obedience. Here, strength came from care and loyalty came from choice. A small alarm sounded inside the outpost, signaling a minor breach. Lyra felt a flicker of instinct, a warning, but she did not act immediately. Her eyes followed a young engineer, human, carefully guiding an alien child away from the danger zone. The child had wide, frightened eyes, and yet the human spoke softly, reassuringly, as if the fear itself could be eased by words alone. Lyra's instincts had always prioritized efficiency over empathy, but in that moment she paused, silently questioning whether she had ever truly understood courage. Elias stepped forward into the open area where the alarm had sounded. He did not carry a weapon. His presence alone was enough to calm the humans and alien refugees around him. "Everyone stay calm," he said, voice steady. "Check the sensors, secure the perimeter, and keep the children safe. Do not act rashly." Lyra's eyes narrowed. This human, she realized, was not like the others. He did not rely on fear or force to command respect. He earned it through trust and example. Watching him, she could see why her superiors had underestimated the humans. They assumed primitive instincts, blind aggression, and weakness. Yet Elias embodied something stronger than brute force: wisdom, courage, and the ability to inspire others. A sudden movement caught her attention. One of her alien reinforcements had entered the outskirts of the base, attempting a subtle approach. Lyra recognized the signature immediately, the silent steps, the careful scanning. They had come to ensure her mission succeeded, to enforce obedience. She felt the familiar rush of duty, the pull of training, but something within her hesitated. Elias moved closer to the engineers, kneeling to examine a damaged piece of equipment. "We can fix this," he said calmly. "We do it together. No one does it alone." His words, simple as they were, carried a weight that Lyra did not expect. For a human to see the value in cooperation over command was rare. For an alien operative to witness it, it was unprecedented. Lyra's reinforcements reached the perimeter, signaling to her to begin the sabotage. She felt the tension rise, a mixture of duty and doubt. Her mission demanded action, but she could not ignore what she had seen. The humans were not enemies in the traditional sense. They were something more. They were beings willing to fight, yes, but also willing to protect and forgive. It was a concept alien to her training, and yet undeniable. From her hidden position, she watched a medic tend to a wounded alien child, gently cleaning a scrape and applying a healing salve. The child flinched, expecting pain, but the human's touch was careful, precise, and kind. Lyra felt an unfamiliar pang, a sense that perhaps her mission was not just about orders and success, but about understanding the consequences of her actions. Elias looked up suddenly, scanning the ridge where Lyra hid. Their eyes met again, and in that moment she realized he was aware of her presence. There was no anger, no aggression, only curiosity and calm. "You don't have to do this," he called softly. His voice carried over the distance, reaching her in a way that seemed impossible. "There is a choice. You do not need to follow orders blindly. You can choose your own path." The words struck her more powerfully than any weapon ever could. Lyra froze, her mind racing. To choose was dangerous. It defied her training, her loyalty, her entire identity. Yet the idea of freedom, the concept that she could decide her actions, that she could step away from the cycle of violence, pulled at something deep within her. Her reinforcements moved closer, signaling for her to complete the mission. Lyra's hand hovered over the device she had prepared to disable the outpost. Every instinct screamed to act, to follow orders without question. But another voice, quiet and steady, whispered that there might be another way. She had never questioned orders before. She had never considered the morality of her actions. But Elia's words, and the sight of humans protecting those weaker than themselves, forced her to confront a possibility she had never allowed herself to imagine. What if she could choose? The day passed slowly, each moment weighted with tension. Lyra watched the humans, learning more than she intended. They were clever, resourceful, and patient. They did not panic under pressure, and they did not act out of fear. They acted out of principle, out of care for one another. It was a philosophy she could not fully grasp yet, but it fascinated her. Elias continued his work, moving through the base with quiet authority. He checked on engineers, distributed supplies, and offered guidance where it was needed. At one point, he knelt beside a group of young alien refugees, showing them how to use tools to repair a broken drone. His patience was infinite, and his teaching gentle. Lyra could see the respect the humans and aliens alike had for him. He led not through force, but through example. As the sun began to set over Zithra Prime, Lyra found herself alone on a ridge, watching the base. Her reinforcements had retreated to a safe distance, waiting for her signal. She could complete the mission, strike the core, and disappear into the night. But the image of Elias, calm and unwavering, stayed with her. The humans were not just fighting. They were living, teaching, protecting. And for the first time, Lyra wondered if following orders blindly was the right choice. A soft breeze carried the smell of campfires and heated metal. The children's laughter echoed faintly, mingling with the hum of machinery. Lyra felt something stir within her, a sense of curiosity, of hope, of rebellion. She had always been a tool of her people, a weapon without question. Now she felt the first flicker of something different, the possibility that she could act for herself, not for orders, not for loyalty, but for choice. Night fell fully, and the stars appeared in a sky untouched by war. Lyra's hand remained suspended over the device, her mind no longer solely focused on the mission. She had seen humans at their worst, and now she was seeing them at their best. Elias had offered her something no one had ever offered before, understanding and the chance to be free. Lyra knew that tomorrow would bring challenges. Her reinforcements would insist she complete her orders. Her superiors would demand obedience. But for the first time, she felt that the path before her could be hers to choose. She was no longer only a soldier, only a weapon. She was beginning to think, to question, to hope. And in that quiet moment, as Zithra Prime's twin moons rose over the horizon, Lyra felt the first true weight of freedom. It was frightening, uncertain, and thrilling all at once. The mission was not over. Her decision had not yet been made. But she knew, without doubt, that her journey was no longer dictated solely by orders. It was becoming her own. The morning sun rose over Zithra Prime, casting long shadows across the jagged terrain. Lyra crouched on a rocky ridge, surveying the human outpost below. The night had been long, filled with questions that refused to be silenced. She had watched, learned, and wondered. The humans were not what she had expected. They were clever, resilient, and compassionate in ways her superiors had never understood. And Commander Elias, he had offered her a choice, something she had never experienced in her life. Her alien reinforcements had returned under strict orders. The sabotage must be completed. They approached cautiously, scanning the terrain for threats. Lyra felt the old instincts rise within her, the pull of loyalty and duty. Yet as she looked at the humans below, moving with efficiency and care, she felt hesitation. Obedience had always been absolute, unquestioned, but she could not ignore what she had seen. There was a new path forming in her mind, one that went beyond orders. Elias began his day in the command center, reviewing reports and checking systems. Sensors had detected unusual movement near the perimeter, an intruder, skilled and careful. He already suspected Lyra was nearby, though he did not reveal it to his team. Instead, he moved with quiet authority, ensuring every human and alien refugee under his care was prepared for potential danger. He did not panic. Humans had survived far worse, and he trusted that observation, strategy, and empathy could achieve more than brute force alone. Lyra watched from her vantage point as humans repaired damaged equipment, carried supplies, and coordinated with alien refugees. Their actions were precise but thoughtful, every decision weighed carefully. She had always assumed that humans were weak, untrained, and impulsive, but this display contradicted every expectation. She realized reluctantly that they were stronger than she had ever imagined. Her reinforcements signaled that it was time. They moved closer to the perimeter, ready to enforce her orders. Lyra felt the familiar adrenaline surge, but it was tempered by something else: curiosity, doubt, and a strange sense of responsibility. The humans below were alive, working together, and yet they had no idea a skilled operative had already penetrated their defenses. Lyra considered the consequences of action and inaction, weighing every possibility. Suddenly, a minor alarm sounded inside the base. One of the engineers had tripped a sensor, triggering a security alert. Humans moved swiftly but calmly. No panic, no chaos. Elias walked to the center of the group, his presence steadying everyone. "Assess the situation," he said, voice calm. "Do not act rashly. Protect those who cannot protect themselves. We will handle this." Lyra watched him closely. It was not just his words that impressed her, it was the way he embodied them. Every human and alien in the room moved with confidence because they trusted him, not because they feared him. She had never seen leadership expressed in this way. Her people led through intimidation and control. Humans led through respect and example. Her reinforcements grew restless, signaling with urgent gestures. They had no time for hesitation. The mission demanded completion. Lyra felt the old compulsion to obey, to strike, to ensure her superiors' objectives were met. But she could not ignore the humans' actions, their cooperation, their courage. For the first time, she questioned whether her definition of strength had been wrong all along. From her position, she saw Elias kneel beside a young alien child, showing them how to repair a damaged communication device. The child's hands trembled, but Elias spoke softly, guiding them with patience and encouragement. The moment was simple, almost mundane, yet it carried a profound strength. Lyra realized that this was leadership, compassion, and courage combined into something she had never experienced. Her reinforcements signaled again, more urgently. Lyra's mind raced. If she completed the mission, she would be following orders. But at what cost? The humans she observed were not enemies in the usual sense. They were beings striving to survive and protect one another. Destroying the outpost would not only kill innocents, it would erase the example of a society that valued choice, empathy, and freedom. She decided to act differently. Instead of initiating the sabotage, she subtly interfered with her reinforcements' approach. A small diversion here, a minor misstep there, nothing dangerous, but enough to slow them down and draw attention away from the humans. Her actions were calculated, precise, yet they signaled a quiet rebellion. For the first time, Lyra's skill was not used to obey orders blindly. It was used to protect life. Inside the base, Elias noticed subtle anomalies in the perimeter sensors, minor disruptions that did not match any ordinary threat. He narrowed his eyes, sensing the presence of someone skilled, someone close. Yet instead of preparing a trap, he issued calm instructions. Secure the perimeter, but do not harm unless necessary. Observe first, understand second. His approach was deliberate, methodical, and it struck Lyra as extraordinary. She watched him, hidden but attentive. Every action he took reinforced the idea that humans were not merely survivors. They were problem solvers, thinkers, and protectors. Her perception of the mission shifted. It was no longer just about obedience. It was about understanding, judgment, and perhaps a new kind of loyalty that could be earned rather than demanded. The alien reinforcements began to grow frustrated. They could sense her hesitation, though they did not understand it. To them, loyalty was absolute. Hesitation was weakness. Lyra felt the pressure mounting. She had to make a choice, and the wrong decision could cost lives, hers, her reinforcements, and the humans. At that moment, Elias stepped outside the command center, his eyes scanning the ridge where Lyra hid. Their gazes met, and for a long moment nothing moved. His presence was calm, almost gentle, yet commanding. "You don't have to follow orders," he said again, his voice carrying across the distance. "You have a choice. Choose what you believe is right, not what you are told." Lyra's mind whirled. To disobey orders was unthinkable. To act for herself was dangerous. But the humans below, their courage, their kindness, and their cooperation, demanded that she consider another path. She could not deny the impact of what she had witnessed. And Elia's offer, freedom, was unlike anything she had ever been given. A soft breeze swept across the ridge, carrying the sounds of the base, the clatter of tools, the hum of machinery, and the laughter of children. Lyra realized that the humans were alive not just in body but in spirit. They were learning, teaching, and surviving together. Her mission, once clear and simple, had become a question of morality, conscience, and choice. Her reinforcements grew impatient, signaling for her to act. Lyra's hands hovered over the device that could destroy the outpost. Every instinct told her to complete the mission, to obey, to follow through. But another instinct, quiet and powerful, told her to wait. She could protect the humans without immediate violence, using her skill to shield them instead of harm them. She made a decision, small, careful, yet decisive. She would not act against the humans. She would delay the sabotage, redirect her reinforcements subtly, and protect the outpost without revealing her presence. It was the first time she had acted for herself, not for orders. Her heart raced, but she felt a strange sense of clarity. Elias, unaware of her exact actions but sensing a shift in the situation, continued his work. He moved among humans and aliens alike, demonstrating patience, courage, and intelligence. His example reinforced the idea that choice and leadership were stronger than fear or control. Lyra's mind began to understand that loyalty could be earned, that freedom could inspire more than obedience ever could. The day ended with a quiet tension. Lyra retreated to a hidden position, observing the humans one last time before night fell. Her reinforcements returned, puzzled but unable to act decisively. They had expected blind obedience, not hesitation, not subtle sabotage in favor of their supposed enemies. Lyra felt the first stirrings of true independence, a sense that she could shape her own destiny rather than merely follow orders. As Zithra Prime's twin moons rose, she thought of the choice she had made. The humans had survived, guided by courage and empathy. Commander Elias had offered her a path she had never known, a life not dictated by loyalty alone, but by conscience, understanding, and freedom. Her mission was not complete, and challenges awaited, but Lyra felt a growing confidence. She was no longer merely a weapon. She was a being capable of thought, judgment, and choice. In that quiet night, as stars glittered above the scarred world, Lyra understood that the galaxy was larger than she had imagined. Strength was not only in force, but in wisdom. Courage was not only in battle, but in protecting those who could not defend themselves. And freedom, true freedom, was the most powerful force of all. The morning on Zithra Prime arrived with an uneasy stillness. The planet's jagged landscapes glowed faintly under the twin suns, but the calm was deceptive. Lyra crouched on a ridge overlooking the human outpost, her mind tense yet focused. Last night had been a turning point. She had chosen, for the first time, to protect the humans instead of blindly following orders. Yet she knew her defiance would not go unnoticed. Her alien superiors would demand accountability, and the mission was far from over. Inside the base, Commander Elias moved among his team, unaware of the full extent of Lyra's choices. He was methodical, observing each engineer, soldier, and alien refugee, ensuring every task was performed efficiently and safely. The humans and aliens under his care trusted him, and their cooperation reflected it. He had sensed the alien operative nearby, her presence a shadow in the system, but he did not act with force. He had learned that sometimes patience and understanding were the strongest weapons. Lyra's reinforcements arrived at the outskirts of the base, scanning for any sign of their operative. They did not know she had already begun a subtle form of sabotage against their mission. Their approach was precise, trained, and ruthless. They assumed she would follow orders without hesitation, yet she had learned differently. She had observed humans in action, their courage, their empathy, and the effectiveness of cooperation over fear. These lessons guided her every decision now. As she watched, a group of reinforcements moved closer to the perimeter, planning to force entry into the base. Lyra weighed her options carefully. To act too directly would reveal her presence and could endanger the humans. To do nothing would allow her reinforcements to complete the mission. She chose a third way. She would use her knowledge of the terrain and the humans' routines to create obstacles, diverting attention without causing harm. A minor landslide she initiated blocked the approach path of her reinforcements, forcing them to take longer routes and exposing them to observation from her hidden vantage point. The humans inside noticed the unusual movement but did not panic. Elias calmly instructed teams to check sensors, organize patrols, and secure the perimeter. His approach was steady, deliberate, and highly effective. Lyra marveled at how humans could remain composed under pressure, acting decisively while protecting those who could not protect themselves. One of her reinforcements, more impatient than the others, attempted to breach a secondary perimeter point. Lyra acted, not to attack, but to redirect. She triggered a minor electrical interference, causing lights to flicker and sensors to recalibrate. The reinforcements were momentarily confused, giving the humans just enough time to respond without suspicion. Lyra felt a quiet satisfaction. She was no longer a mere tool. She was making choices with purpose, guided by conscience rather than orders. Inside the command center, Elias noticed the anomaly and immediately deduced it was no ordinary malfunction. "Someone is probing us," he said calmly to his second-in-command. "We do not know their intentions yet. Do not escalate until we understand them." His voice was steady, but his mind raced. A highly skilled alien operative was near, and her actions were deliberate. She was testing the base, observing and calculating. Elias knew that force alone would not be enough. Understanding was required. Lyra crouched atop the ridge, observing Elias as he coordinated defenses. He was not aggressive, not panicked, yet every move he made increased the security of the humans and alien refugees. He was precise, intelligent, and compassionate, a combination that she had never seen before. Her admiration for him grew, tempered by the knowledge that she still carried the weight of her mission. As the day progressed, the alien reinforcements attempted multiple breaches, each one subtly thwarted by Lyra's interventions. She created diversions, disrupted minor systems, and misdirected her comrades, all without revealing her presence or harming any humans. Each success strengthened her confidence, but also increased the risk. If her superiors discovered her actions, the consequences would be severe. Finally, the alien reinforcements gathered for a coordinated attack on the base. Lyra realized that inaction could now directly endanger the humans. She had to act decisively. Using her insider knowledge, she manipulated the environment, cutting off approach routes, sealing weak points, and leading the reinforcements into a position where they were exposed and disorganized. The humans, guided by Elias, moved efficiently, responding to alarms and minor disturbances without panic. Elias stepped into the open, his presence commanding attention. He did not fire weapons indiscriminately. Instead, he directed teams to secure civilians, protect vulnerable points, and contain the alien forces without unnecessary destruction. The humans' disciplined, intelligent response highlighted their strength. Lyra realized that their success was not due to superior firepower, but due to trust, coordination, and courage, the same qualities she had begun to admire. The alien reinforcements, frustrated and disoriented, began to retreat. Lyra acted subtly to ensure they could not regroup effectively, further protecting the humans. Her actions were decisive yet restrained. She had learned from Elias that the highest form of strength was control over one's actions, combined with care for others. After the conflict subsided, Lyra retreated to a hidden position. She watched as Elias moved among his team, checking on everyone, offering words of encouragement, and ensuring all were safe. He had no idea she had intervened directly, yet his approach reinforced everything she had begun to understand about humans: courage, wisdom, empathy, and choice. Lyra's thoughts turned inward. She had defied orders, protected the humans, and subtly sabotaged her own reinforcements. Each decision carried risk, but also a growing sense of purpose. For the first time, she realized that loyalty could be earned, not demanded. Strength was not only in following orders, but in making decisions guided by conscience. And freedom, true freedom, was the ultimate power. Elias returned to the command center as night fell, unaware of the alien operative who had silently turned the tide of the day. He reviewed reports, checked systems, and ensured the base was secure. Lyra watched from the shadows, a mixture of admiration, respect, and uncertainty in her mind. She had begun a journey that could change her life forever, yet the path was fraught with danger. As darkness settled over Scythera Prime, Lyra made a decision. She would continue to protect the humans, subtly undermining her reinforcements when necessary. She would observe, learn, and act with purpose. Her loyalty to her superiors was no longer absolute. It had been replaced by a new understanding of duty, courage, and morality. She was no longer merely an operative. She was a being capable of choice, capable of guiding her own destiny. The twin moons rose over the planet, casting silver light across the jagged landscape. Lyra felt a quiet determination solidify within her. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, perhaps direct confrontation with her alien superiors. Yet she would face them not as a tool, not as a weapon, but as an individual guided by conscience. The humans had shown her a way forward, and Elias had offered her freedom. She understood now that the galaxy was larger than she had imagined. It was not just a place of conflict and obedience, but of choice, courage, and compassion. The humans were living proof that strength came from wisdom, cooperation, and empathy. And Lyra, once a weapon of her people, was beginning to see herself not only as a participant in the galaxy's wars, but as a protector, a chooser, and perhaps even a bridge between species. The night air was cold against her skin, but it felt invigorating. For the first time, she felt the weight of freedom, not as a threat but as an opportunity. She had acted not out of orders, not out of fear, but out of understanding. The path ahead was uncertain, dangerous, and full of challenges. But Lyra knew one thing with absolute clarity. She would no longer be a tool of blind obedience. She would act for herself, for the humans she had come to respect, and for the choice she had been offered. And as she disappeared into the shadows, preparing for the new day, she knew that the galaxy would never see her, or the humans she protected, in the same way again. The morning on Zithra Prime began with a tense stillness. The planet's jagged terrain glowed under the twin suns, but the calm was deceptive. Lyra crouched on a ridge, her eyes scanning the human outpost below. The past days had changed everything. She had observed, questioned, and finally acted against her orders, subtly protecting the humans while deceiving her alien reinforcements. Now, the stakes were higher than ever. Her superiors would not tolerate defiance for long, and she knew they would come for her. Inside the base, Commander Elias moved among his people with quiet authority. He did not know the full extent of Lyra's actions, but he sensed the shift. Something had disrupted the usual patterns of the aliens' attacks. He trusted his instincts, and they told him a highly skilled operative was near, watching, calculating. But Elias did not panic. Humans had survived far worse, and he knew that strategy, observation, and empathy could achieve what brute force alone could not. The first warning came in the form of ships descending from the sky, alien reinforcements arriving with speed and precision. They carried the orders Lyra had defied. Her superiors demanded her return, alive if possible, or their mission would be completed without her. The human defenders quickly mobilized under Elia's guidance. He instructed them calmly, dividing teams to protect civilians, secure the perimeter, and prepare for the approaching forces. Lyra watched from the ridge as the alien forces began their assault. She realized that this confrontation was unavoidable. She could no longer act in the shadows. The humans needed her. Every instinct screamed to follow her old orders, but a stronger voice, her own conscience, told her to stand with the humans, not against them. She moved silently, descending toward the perimeter. Her appearance surprised the alien reinforcements, who had expected a simple, obedient operative. Lyra acted decisively, using her knowledge of their tactics to create confusion. She diverted troops, blocked access points, and misled patrols. Her skill, once used to obey, was now used to protect life and ensure the humans' survival. Inside the base, Elias observed the movements of the attackers. He noticed the disruption in their formation and realized that someone inside their ranks was acting against them. He did not yet know who, but he sensed the presence of a skilled mind. He instructed his teams to hold position, conserve energy, and focus on defense. Every human and alien refugee responded with calm determination, moving in coordination, protecting one another, and holding the line against the superior force. Lyra's reinforcements became frustrated, their confusion growing. They expected obedience, but instead found defiance, intelligence, and subtle sabotage. Lyra confronted them directly, her presence commanding attention. She spoke to them in their language, firm yet calm. "I will not follow orders that harm those who do not deserve it. I will act with purpose, not obedience. If you continue, you will fail." Her words, combined with her skill, disrupted the attackers' morale. Conflicted by her authority and expertise, some hesitated. Lyra seized the opportunity to protect the humans further, guiding them away from danger and misleading her reinforcements into positions where they could not act effectively. Her actions were precise, calculated, and restrained, ensuring no unnecessary harm was done. Elias noticed the alien operative emerging in plain view. He understood immediately. The one who had been observing, protecting, and subtly influencing the outcome was not acting on orders from her people. She was acting on choice. He moved toward her, keeping calm as the battle unfolded around them. "You don't have to fight alone," he said, voice steady. "Stand with us if you choose." Lyra hesitated, seeing the humans holding their positions, caring for the injured and working together with unwavering courage. She had seen the value of their lives, their principles, and their cooperation. She realized that her loyalty to her superiors was no longer absolute. Her loyalty now belonged to something greater, the choice to protect, to act wisely, and to uphold life rather than destroy it. The alien reinforcements launched a coordinated strike, but Lyra intervened directly, using her knowledge to neutralize the threat without unnecessary violence. She moved with precision, disabling weapons, redirecting forces, and creating barriers that protected the humans while frustrating her own people. Each move demonstrated skill, intelligence, and courage, showing that true strength was more than obedience, it was judgment. Elias coordinated his teams, maximizing efficiency and minimizing harm. Humans and alien refugees moved together as one, guided by his leadership. The base remained secure despite the superior numbers of the attacking force. Lyra fought alongside them, and for the first time she felt a true sense of unity. She was not a weapon, she was a partner in the defense of life. The battle reached its climax as the alien reinforcements attempted a final push. Lyra took a calculated risk, leading a small group into the attackers' formation. Her actions created confusion, allowing the humans to repel the assault and secure the perimeter. The alien forces, frustrated and disorganized, eventually retreated. Lyra stood among the humans, breathing heavily but uninjured. She had acted decisively, not for orders, not for fear, but for choice. Elias approached her, calm and steady. He did not ask why she had helped, nor did he demand loyalty. Instead, he offered her something extraordinary: freedom. "You have made your choice," he said. "You can remain here safe among us or leave if you wish. No one will pursue you. The choice is yours." Lyra felt a surge of relief and wonder. She had been given the chance to act for herself, to decide her own destiny. For the first time in her life, she was free, not bound by orders, not bound by loyalty, but free to choose. She looked around at the humans and alien refugees, all safe because of her decisions, and realized that this was what true strength looked like. It was not domination. It was courage, wisdom, and care for others. After the battle, the humans and alien refugees began repairing the damage. Elias organized teams, ensuring that everyone had a role and that the base would be restored efficiently. Lyra assisted quietly, her knowledge invaluable in guiding repairs and reorganizing defenses. She began to understand the principles Elias had demonstrated all along. Cooperation, empathy, and the courage to act wisely were more powerful than any weapon. Word of her actions spread quietly among the human defenders. They did not know her full story, but they sensed her integrity, skill, and courage. Lyra felt a growing respect for these humans who had survived against impossible odds, who had fought without cruelty, and who had offered her freedom when she could have been their enemy. The alien reinforcements retreated completely, reporting their failure. Lyra's superiors were furious but could not reach her. She had chosen her path, and it had been reinforced by her own courage and intelligence. She realized that this choice had changed her life forever. No longer a tool, no longer a weapon, she was a being capable of judgment, compassion, and independence. Elias approached her as night fell, the twin moons rising over Zithra Prime. "You have done more than protect this base," he said quietly. "You have shown courage, wisdom, and understanding. These are qualities worth far more than obedience." Lyra nodded, feeling a sense of peace she had never known. The humans had taught her that strength was not measured by how strictly one followed orders, but by how wisely one acted, how courageously one protected others, and how freely one chose to act. She understood that she could now live by her own rules, guided by conscience, empathy, and reason. In the following days, she integrated into the human outpost, learning their ways, assisting with defense, and building relationships with both humans and alien refugees. Her knowledge of her own species became a bridge, a tool for peace and cooperation. Commander Elias continued to lead, his reputation growing as a human who combined strategy, courage, and compassion in ways that inspired loyalty and respect. Lyra's story spread quietly throughout the galaxy, a symbol of what was possible when choice, courage, and understanding prevailed over blind obedience. She became an ambassador, a protector, and a symbol of the potential for unity between species. Humans, once considered weak and unpredictable, were now admired for their intelligence, empathy, and ability to inspire loyalty through freedom, not fear. Zithra Prime's skies were clear and calm as Lyra stood on a ridge, watching the base below. The battle was over, but the lessons remained. She had been given a choice, and she had chosen wisely. The humans had shown her the power of freedom, cooperation, and courage. And in turn, she had proven that even one alien operative could defy orders and act for the greater good. The twin moons rose high, casting silver light over the landscape. Lyra felt a quiet determination solidify within her. She had acted not out of obedience, not out of fear, but out of understanding. She had protected life, inspired hope, and earned the right to choose. The galaxy was vast, filled with challenges and conflict, but she now knew that choice, courage, and conscience could shape the future in ways that obedience never could. Lyra turned toward the base, where humans and alien refugees worked together in harmony, rebuilding what had been damaged. She stepped forward, joining them, not as a weapon, not as an operative, but as a being capable of thought, judgment, and action. The galaxy had not seen the last of her, but it had witnessed the first moment when a human commander's offer of freedom had changed everything. And in that moment, Lyra understood the truth. One act of trust, one offer of freedom, one choice guided by conscience could alter the course of a life, and perhaps even the fate of the galaxy itself.